Welcome back. You're now watching the lifestyle segment of the Weekend Show brought to you by Holocron Popcorn. Like we stated earlier, INEC has extended its PVC collection to the 29th of January. I think this is great news. And so for people who registered and who haven't collected their PVCs, you have an extra week to go collect your PVC. After that, it's up to you to go vote. However, how efficient has the collection process been? I read an article where INEC said in states hundreds of thousands of PVCs have been delivered. However, with over 9 million people registered to vote, how efficient is it? Are hundreds of thousands enough, or should we be ensuring that everyone gets their PVCs and so they are able to vote? And we'll be having that conversation today. Joining us is...
We have Ibrahim Farouk here in the studio, who is the program manager at Yaga Africa. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
Happy New Year, Farouk.
Happy New Year, Andy.
You're looking
quite
fresh. Thank you. I find it very weird that the citizens and CSOs and NGOs contribute more and pay more attention to our voter education, our election awareness, and even holding the agencies responsible more accountable, as opposed to the people who it's their job to do what they have been assigned to do. And so let's start with your overview of the PVC registration up to now where it's at collection point.
Well, so I think first of all, it's everyone's job. So it's INEC's job. Political parties also have a job because they're the greatest beneficiaries of the electoral process, citizens as well. But it's been quite an interesting process so far. You'd remember that in 2021, I think in June, INEC started the continuous voter registration process, and citizens could pre-register online, or you could just go to the INEC office in your local government area and register for your PVCs. Since June 2021, and it went up until about July 2022, the continuous voter registration process was ongoing. Collection of those cards, so anyone who registered during that period, or if you transferred, or if you applied for a replacement, if your card was either lost or defaced, it was from 12th of December 2022 that INEC now started distribute or collection of PVCs, because INEC says they are not distributing PVCs. Citizens have to go and collect, and there's no collection by proxy. But it's been a difficult process for many Nigerians. If you remember, during the continuous voter registration, there are lots of queues at the INEC offices, especially towards the later part of the process. Now that PVC collection is ongoing, we're also seeing lots of queues. We're hearing lots of complaints by citizens. So it hasn't been the most seamless process for citizens, but it's a process that some people are also determined that no matter what, they are going to register, they are going to collect their PVCs, and they are going to come out and vote.
So what's been the difference so far between now and the previous elections? Like what's that vim? Like you just said, a lot of people have said they will collect their PVCs no matter what. How has that been?
I think there's an increasing consciousness about the connection between voting and how it affects our lives every day. So citizens know that if I do not come out and vote, it means that those who come out and vote are responsible for whoever ends up in government, whether that person becomes president or members of the National Assembly or whoever your governor is or members of the various state houses of assembly. So you know that now I have a chance, and INEC keeps on saying our votes are going to count. And increasingly we're seeing that the electoral process is improving, the use of the bimodal voter accreditation system, the BVAS. We've seen it tried in some off-cycle elections, and it means that our elections are getting better. So there's an increasing level of trust by citizens in the process. It might not be 100% trust, because a lot of people still believe, oh, INEC already has results somewhere and they know who they are going to announce. But we also have citizens who believe that if I engage in this process, my votes are actually going to count. The candidate that I go to cast my vote for has a great chance of emerging as winner. So there's a lot of excitement, a lot of determination that yes, my votes would count if I participate in the process.
Do you have any idea what the age group is, which is the highest so far in this?
So INEC released the breakdown when it comes to the voters register. So right now we have about 93 million voters on the register. And I think about 39% of that are young people between the ages of 18 and 34. So even though there's a lot of excitement, oh yes, there are more young people on the register, if you compare that to 2019, there were 51% of the register was actually young people between 18 and 35. So we're probably seeing young voters from 2019 who are transiting into middle age, because the category for middle age in 2019 was about 29%. For 2023, it's gone up to about 35%. So if you look at those categories between 18 and 50, it makes up about, I think, 75% of the voters register. And that reflects our population exactly. So expect to see a lot of young people between 18 and 35 come out to vote, people between 36 and 50 also coming out to vote and determining who becomes president or governor in the 28 states, or the members of the National Assembly or the various state houses of assembly that we have.
Let's talk about voter apathy. I saw the Anambra elections and the turnout, so a state that has, I think, about 2 million registered voters, that election was won with less than 700,000 votes. I saw Ondo State with 1.5 million registered voters. It was about 850,000 thereabouts. And so we see a huge amount of people register, and also because most of these people, the voters card is a legitimate form of ID card. But when it comes to voting, the numbers are still about half of the registered population. What do you think is the reason for this, and do you think that will change now?
So I would answer your last question first, because I actually think that would change. And there's a Hausa proverb that says, if the weekend is going to be good, you start to know from Wednesday. And so I think we are in our Wednesday period now, and we can start to see there's a lot of excitement about this election. Almost in every conversation you hear, oh, the 2023 elections, and we've been talking about it for so long, and right now it is here. So there's that excitement. You spoke about Anambra, and I think Anambra was such a sad case.
Yes.
Because out of about 2 million registered voters, only about 200,000 actually came out to vote. That was just about 10%. So voter turnout was just about 10%. In the 2019 general elections, overall it was about 35%. So since 2003, voter turnout for the presidential elections has steadily been declining. And it's sad that we have such a huge population, but those who are responsible for determining who gets into power for 4 years is such a small group, is such a small percentage. So when I say 35% in 2019 or 10% in Anambra, it's not the entire population, it's just the entire voting population, those who have PVCs. In 2019, the voters register had about 84 million. But when we talk about the Nigerian population, many times they say we're 150, 200 million, depending on who you believe. But we first have 84 million who are registered. Out of that 84 million, only 35% came out to vote. Out of that 35%, only about half voted for the current president. So you can see how you start to break down the numbers. But what the good thing that we're starting to see is that excitement that citizens have, young people, old people, in rural areas, in urban areas, want to get their PVCs, want to come out and vote. We know some people just want it as a form of ID, and I have these conversations every day. But I'm also very excited when every day my phone is buzzing. How can I pick up my PVC? Where's my ward center? What can I do? Sometimes I even hear people ask, can I still register? I'm like, nah, that's too late. But that excitement is there, and many Nigerians actually want to participate.
From your own evaluation, what's bringing about this excitement? Elections didn't just start are not starting in 2023. It's been going on since.
So some candidates have definitely excited and inspired some Nigerians to want to participate. But also, I think there's that, like I said earlier, there's an understanding of the connection between participating in the electoral process and how it affects your everyday life. And then thirdly, there's this consensus that you can trust the Independent National Electoral Commission a lot more. And you know that with the BVAS machines, all things being equal, your votes would count. Because INEC has said there is electronic accreditation, so the machine accredits who comes to vote. If only 3 of us are in a polling unit, we know that that machine cannot produce more than 3 votes. At the end of the voting, you use the machine to take a picture of the results and upload it to the INEC results viewing portal, and anywhere across the world who has an account on that portal can view the results. So you're able to track, for instance, and say in this local government, based on the results on the portal, a certain candidate should get a certain number of votes. So the areas for rigging and manipulation are greatly reduced, even though some of them still exist. So once citizens understand that it's a lot more difficult for politicians to manipulate the process, there's more confidence and trust to participate in it.
So my next question was actually about BVAS and breaking it down to the average Nigerian, because most people just say BVAS and move past it. So I want to thank you for breaking that down and explaining to the people. Now with Yiaga Africa, we were in the struggle for Not Too Young to Run, which was passed, and that's something which makes me so proud of a lot of young people, especially Yiaga. Now, young people are interested in elections because now they know they stand a chance to be able to run if they want and if they can afford it. However, I like the fact that there's more participation in holding the system accountable and for people also deciding who they want. And there's a chance that we're going to move away from political structures to the people actually being the ones who determine who wins. However, elections and rigging go hand in hand one way or the other. How can these young people who are now excited about the elections, how can they ensure that their votes are safe and protected on the election day, and how can they hold the responsible agencies accountable?
So there's a lot of information, and sadly some of the agencies who are tasked with ensuring this information is out there is not doing as much as they should. I would have expected that INEC is on television stations every day talking about BVAS and how it functions and why Nigerians should trust it, or the National Orientation Agency, and not just leave it for civil society organizations as much. Because, first of all, one of the things that has empowered the BVAS is the new Electoral Act that was passed in February 2022. That gives legal backing to the use of electronic machines like the BVAS. But everyone needs to know that on election day, how do I get accredited? If you go with your PVC, it's either facial recognition or your fingerprint, and the machine is already pre-programmed with all the fingerprints of all the registered voters for that specific polling unit. And so if the machine does not recognize either your face or your fingerprint, it means that you're not registered for that polling unit. You might be asked to go to another polling unit. All things being equal, and if all the technology works, everything is going to go smoothly. And we know that INEC has taken delivery of the final batch of the machines, and they are currently programming them for all the 176,000 polling units that we have. But especially for citizens, for young people, for politicians, it's understanding the Electoral Act, the various provisions. So if you think that there's some manipulation in your polling unit, what does the law say? How can I challenge it? Can I use the BVAS and go to court? Can I check what is on the IREF portal and ensure that I have evidence if I want to go to court after the process? So there's a lot of that understanding that needs to take place about the electoral process, about the legal framework that backs our electoral process as well. If we do not understand that, if some manipulation goes on, especially for young people who haven't run for elections before, you do not know what actions to take to seek redress.
Okay, with the elections around the corner, it's one thing to create awareness to actually go pick your PVC. It's another thing to go to the polls to vote. So what has Yiaga done so far in not just creating awareness for PVC collection, but to actually push people on that day to actually go and cast their votes? Another thing, is that a lot of young Nigerians, we get easily tired, we get easily stressed. On that day, there are situations that will happen, as we've seen in the past, where they frustrate you into, giving up and going home and not casting your vote. So what's been done in order to push people to say, you know what, I am going to cast my vote and I'm going to go to the polls on that day?
So we have so many different projects and initiatives that are going on, and I'll try to speak about some of them really quickly. One is called 60% of Us, and what that means is we're trying to get 60% of young Nigerians to register, to collect their PVCs, and then to come out and vote on election day. And there's some support that we've received from UNDP, and we have partner organizations like TASC, Inclusive Friends, Yes Project, Dean Initiative, and We Vote. And what some of our partners are doing is a bus drive. So what the bus drive does is you have free transportation to take you from your house or from any location to go and register. And so when you get on the bus, our partners have your contact details. Why they have your contact details is that right now they're also contacting those same people that they took on the bus drive to register to go to the ward collection centers or the local government to also collect their cards. And then a few days before elections to also reach out to them. So there's the registration part, there's the collection part, then there's the voter mobilization part to say, you know what, I supported you to register. You had a free, you did not have to pay anything to go to the INEC registration center. You did not have to pay anything to go and pick up your PVC. Now I'm calling you and saying, make sure you come out on election day and cast your vote. So it's non-partisan. It's not saying vote for anyone, vote for this candidate or that candidate. No, it's just ensuring that 60% of Nigerians actually come out and vote. When we talk about voter turnout, I spoke about 35% in the 2019 general elections. That was average. If you look at the youth age category, about 18 to 35, it was about 29% of young people who actually came out to vote. So even though we have such a huge youth population, even though the current register says young people are about 39% out of the 93 million that we have, many young people actually do not come out and vote on election day. So there's that mobilization, there's that sensitization, that continuous messaging. Partners like TASC are going to be using influencers, creatives, celebrities to pass that message closer to the elections. Other partners are working with persons living with disabilities, which is also a huge community that we have. Other partners are targeting young people in various states where they have. We have 20 young people in 20 states called our Power of 18 who are mobilizing their peers. And they were empowered to get at least 5,000 young people in each state to register, 5,000 to collect their PVCs, at least 5,000 to come out and vote. So that's directly targeting 5,000. There's a spillover effect. So if Andy is part of my 5,000, he can reach out to you, reach out to someone else. And we have many more people. We have young people who are providing support to INEC right now at the ward collection centers called the voting squads. Because INEC is overwhelmed. Like I've been to some of the centers and sometimes you see huge crowds. They are trying to sort out cards, make sure that everyone who comes gets their card as quickly as possible and is able to leave. But with 8,809 ward centers, INEC is stretched. So we've deployed volunteers across the FCT and in some local government areas in Lagos as well, who are assisting INEC to ensure that the process of PVC collection is as seamless as possible. So those are some of the initiatives towards creating awareness, ensuring the process is seamless, mobilizing towards February 25th and March 11th, 2023 as well.
What's your charge to the security agencies? About 56,000 new polling units have been created every election, and thankfully election violence has reduced significantly, but we still have pockets of those cases. We've seen in some states where INEC offices are being burnt. We've also heard of situations where some INEC officers may have been attacked as well. What do you think should be done to ensure the security and safety of the people and the officials during this election?
So I know that INEC is part of a committee, I think with almost all the security agencies in the country, and they meet regularly to assess the situation. The truth of the matter is there are various security challenges across the country, and almost each geopolitical zone has a different type of security challenge that we're dealing with. And when it comes to elections, security is heightened. One of my fears is that if the elections seem highly militarized or securitized, I'm not sure what the word is, it might put citizens off from coming to vote. So there must be that constant messaging from INEC and the security about what the plans are, what the deployments for security are, to ensure that citizens are safe, to ensure that INEC facilities are safe as well, to ensure that when citizens go out to vote, they can vote without any fear. Because, Andy, if citizens are afraid, if I think that I go to a polling unit and there's a possibility that harm will come to me, I wouldn't show up.
Sure.
You know, but so in my mind, I need to know that the security agents are on top of it. Their deployments have identified what are hotspots, what are some of the challenges, and they are responding to it. Or maybe not even responding to it, they're tackling it before it comes up. So you're being more proactive than being reactive. And so in the back of my mind, I'm like, oh, they identified a threat even before it came. They've been able to contain it. So I know that when I go out on election day, I do not have any fear that any harm will come to me. And that message needs to be reinforced. Citizens all over the country need to hear that message, that INEC is ready, all the machines are ready, the security agencies are ready, they are working together with INEC, everything is set. All you need to do is make sure you have your PVC, come out on election day, cast your vote and go home.
So before we go, is there anything you'd like to say to Nigerians concerning the election coming up?
Vote as if your life depends on it.
Because it does.
It does. You know,
Yes,
this is basically the election of our lifetime. Especially if you're young or you're middle age, whoever you vote might end up in office for the next 8 years.
True.
So even now, if you think you're young or you're Gen Z, in the next 8 years, someone will be calling you uncle or auntie, and you vote because it's like basically your life depends on it.
I love that message. Ibrahim Farouk of Yaga Africa, thank you for always coming
you.
on the show and your contributions. We'll continue to track your work and see how we could help our audience to understand that better. And to our viewers at home, go home and vote. Vote like your life depends on it. Collection of PVCs have been extended to the 29th of January, so it's now up to you to ensure you get it. We have our entrepreneur spotlight, we have our chef, we also have Aisha B and Ayo Adams coming to you shortly. See you after this break.